In March, a single federal rule took roughly 13,000 truck drivers off American highways. 4 months later, dry van spot rates hit $2.96 a mile, about 50% above where they were a year ago. Those two facts are the same fact. I'm not here to argue about immigration policy. I'm here to show you the plumbing. How a rule written in Washington moves a price on a load board in Dallas. And what that means whether you own one truck or you're just watching what this does to the price of everything you buy. For parts, the rule, the capacity math, the rate response, and who actually wins. On February 13th, 2026, the FMCSA published a final rule on non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses. It took effect March 16th. Here's what it actually does. It narrows eligibility for a non-domiciled CDL down to holders of H-2A, H-2B, and E-2 visas. That's it. It also forces states to verify immigration status, and this is the part people miss, to go back and audit CDLs they had already issued. And it has teeth. Tens of millions of dollars in federal highway funding were withheld to make states comply. Then in April, the FMCSA published FAQs, clarifying English language proficiency enforcement. Under that guidance, a driver who can't respond sufficiently to an official inquiry during a roadside inspection can be cited and placed out of service. Right there, on the shoulder, with the load still on the trailer. Now here's the number that matters. The early enforcement wave alone removed about 13,000 drivers. And the state audits aren't finished. 13,000 drivers sounds small against a market of millions. So why did it move prices this much? Because freight capacity doesn't work like a dial. It works like a valve that's already almost closed. 3 things were already squeezing capacity before this rule landed. Carriers have been exiting the market after 2 brutal years of low rates. Fleets were replacing trucks more slowly. Equipment got expensive and financing got tight. And broker liability precedents made everyone more conservative about who they put on a load. So the market was running thin. Then you remove 13,000 drivers. And critically, you make it harder to add new ones because the pipeline that supplied a meaningful share of new entrants just narrowed to 3 visa categories. This is the part one want you to sit with. The rule didn't just subtract drivers. It subtracted the ability to replace them. That's the difference between a dip and a structural shift. And when supply can't respond to price, price has to do all the work by itself. Which brings us to the load board. Week of July 26th through August 1st. Dry van, $2.96 a mile all in. Load-to-truck ratio, 10.9. That means for every available dry van truck, there were almost 11 loads chasing it. Reefer, $3.35 a mile. Load-to-truck ratio, 19.4. 19 loads per truck. But the number I'd actually watch is tender rejection. It's at 14.1%, down from a peak of 17.65. A year ago, 4.75%. Tender rejection is the market's lie detector. It measures how often a carrier says no to a load they were contractually offered. When it's under 5%, carriers take what they're given. The shipper has the power. At 14%, carriers are shopping. They're rejecting contract freight to go chase spot rates because spot is paying better. That single number tells you who's in control. And right now, it isn't the shipper. So rates are up 50%. Everybody in trucking is rich now, right? No. And this is where most coverage of this story stops being useful. A high rate is not a high margin. The same conditions that lifted the rate also lifted your costs. Insurance is up. That's the broker liability environment pricing itself in. Equipment is up. Qualified drivers are scarcer, so wages went up, which is exactly what you'd expect and exactly what eats the spread. So who wins? 3 groups. 1. Carriers who already had trucks and drivers in place before March. They caught the rate increase without paying the acquisition cost. Pure timing. 2. Anyone whose compliance is genuinely clean. In an enforcement environment this aggressive, A driver put out of service on the shoulder isn't a fine. It's a dead load, a missed appointment, a damaged customer relationship, and ACSA score that follows you. I've spent years on the documentation side of fleets, and I'll tell you the thing nobody puts in a headline. The paperwork is the asset. Companies discover this at the worst possible moment. 3. Shippers who lock contracts before the shift. Every quarter they hold that rate is money. Who loses? Anyone who is planning to grow by adding drivers this year. The math you built your plan on doesn't exist anymore. If you're running a fleet right now, the single highest leverage thing you can do this month is audit your driver files before an inspector does it for you. I keep a checklist of what actually gets flagged. Links in the description. Here's the compressed version. A rule changed who's allowed to drive. That removed capacity from a market that was already tight. And, more importantly, it removed the ability to replace that capacity. Rates went up about 50% and are expected to finish the year 20 to 25% above last year. This isn't a spike that mean reverts in a quarter. Supply constraints written into regulation don't unwind on their own. If you want to understand where this goes next, watch tender rejection. If it climbs back towards 17% going into peak season, capacity got tighter, not looser. And everything in this video intensifies. Next video, I'm taking that $296 a mile and subtracting every real cost line to show you what an owner-operator actually clears in this market. It's less than you think, and the reason why is interesting.